right. You guys, maybe third or fourth time's a charm here. I am thinking that we are live now. I hope we are live now. I am going to try to pull my chat up here. My apologies. You guys, thank you for bearing with us here. We had a little bit of technical difficulties here, but I'm hoping that we're up and running. Now, I still am not able to see my chat. Moderators, if you're hearing this, let me know what's up here. Let me know what's going on. And hopefully we can get started in just a second. Let's see here. Okay, all right, you guys, success. Woohoo! Success. I have my chat pulled up. I can see you guys. Well, I can't see you guys. I can see what you're typing. But I think we're good to go here. So Amy JT, hello to you. Joanna, hello, hello. Welcome in, everybody. You guys, thank you for joining us. Again, thank you for bearing with us through technical difficulties. I think there's something in the air today, but that's okay. We're going to work through it, and we are going to do some fun nails today. I've got a really pretty, kind of a classy design, classy or classic, however you want to say it. Design that I'm going to show you. We're going to be sculpting out our acrylic extensions today, and I've had a request for some coffin and tapered square nails, so that's what we're going to be working on today. I'll show you guys those. So whenever we are working with acrylics, hard gels, gel polish, whatever you're doing for your nail services, you always want to start by doing your prep. And your prep is really going to be about the same whether you're working on any of those kind of extensions, whether you're doing a set of the full cover tips like I have on. You guys, if you were wanting to see how those were done, we actually did a video on that earlier this week. So really fun technique, really easy technique. So make sure to check out that video. And we'll go ahead and prep our nails here. I already pushed back the cuticles. I'm going to change out my sanding band. We're going to get a nice new sanding band, and always make sure that you are replacing your sanding band for every service. You want to make sure that you've got one that's got the proper grit to it. You don't want to be using a one that's been worn down or anything like that. So make sure that you're always changing out your bit so that you got a new good quality bit to be using. So we're going to start just by working right up around that cuticle, and I've got my e-file set. I think my e-file is actually set at about 3,000 RPMs. With our previous e-file, I used to use about 4,000 to 6,000 RPMs, but with our new e-file, I can actually turn it even lower and work at the I would even say 2,000 RPMs if you want to even go a little bit slower. But with our new e-file, it does have really good torque, which means that it is going to stay spinning even if you do put a little bit of pressure. Now, you don't want to be putting pressure. You basically want to make contact with the nail, and you can see how I'm just gently feathering through that surface. We're just going to go through that cuticle area and then through the rest of the body of the nail and remove the shine. That's all I really need to do for my prep. I don't need to grind away that nail. I don't need to remove any of that natural nail. I just want to break up the surface oils of the nail and create a slight texture on that surface. So we're going to go through and dust off those nails, get as much of that dust off of there as we can. And then we'll grab our swipe, and swipe is what we're going to use to cleanse the nails. So swipe is going to help to clean off any of the rest of the dust that may be on there. It's also going to help to control any germs and bacteria that may be on the nail, so that way we don't get any greenies and we don't get any bacteria growth on our nails. Somebody's saying, can an e-file cut your finger? So you guys, if you are using the electric file properly, you won't cut the skin. But let me show you here really quick. With our sanding bands, let me come in nice and close here. The sanding bands do have a pre-beveled edge right through here. So even on my skin here, I'll show you. If I'm using the proper speed and the proper amount of pressure, that's not going to cut my skin. Now, if you do feel like maybe it still is a little bit too sharp, you can grab your file, just your regular hand file, and you can give it a quick tap, just do a quick 1, 2, 3, and that's going to help to soften that edge even more. So that's going to help if you do feel a little bit uncomfortable working with that up right around that cuticle area. You guys, it does not hurt the nail. Again, when used properly, at the proper speed and at the proper pressure or lack thereof pressure, you can use the electric file very, very safely. And that's exactly what I'm doing here on the nails. And again, you guys, if you missed it, I think it was on Tuesday, I actually did these nails on myself. I did use the electric file, so make sure to check that video out. You guys, I'm not going to do something on myself that is going to hurt, so you can see how the e-file is used very safely. Okay. All right, so after we push back the cuticles and remove the shine, we're going to go ahead and apply our protein bond. Now, today we're going to be working with acrylic, so we're going to do acrylic enhancements. And when I'm working with acrylic, I like to do 2 coats of protein bond. I always feel like 2 coats is going to give you the best adhesion with your acrylic, and it's going to help to keep those nails from lifting. So we're going to go through all of our nails here, and you notice that when I apply my protein bond, I don't just slop it right at the cuticle area. I actually start about halfway down that finger, brushing that out down to the end, and then back out to the sides, then back towards my cuticle area. So this way I'm not ever coming in contact with the skin. I want to make sure that I am staying off the skin, whether I'm using protein bond, whether I'm using acrylic, whatever product, even regular polish, you guys. You want to make sure that you're keeping as much product off of the skin, off of that cuticle as possible. Even though you can see this is a non-acid bonder, but even though it is a non-acid, it still is a chemical. So you want to be sure that you're using the product safely. And there's a little piece of fuzz right on there. I don't know where that came from, but we'll clean that off. So last little nail here, we've got our second coat on there. And again, keeping that product off the skin. All right, we are going to be sculpting our nails today. So we're going to be using some forms, and I'm going to grab just our regular standard forms. You guys, these are just a regular standard form. If you're going to be doing extra long nails, we also have our XL forms that you can use, which are probably about twice the length of our standard form. So personal preference, if you're going to be working on those longer nails, you can use those as well. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that little tab out of the center. We're going to set that right on the back side of our form. So this way it's going to give our form a little bit more stability. We're going to pinch those 2 little silver tabs together, nice and evenly. Now, if you're going to be doing a square nail, I'm just going to pinch those 2 little tabs together. For a square nail, you can leave that end open a little bit more. Whereas, and actually you guys, you can kind of see. So when you put the form on here, I'm going to open up that top perforation. When we get that form up under the nail, and I'm going to show you guys how to properly put a form on, but there was another piece of fuzz on here. I want to make sure to get rid of that. I don't know where that was coming from. So I'm going to show you how to properly put a form on, but if you are doing a square nail, if you leave that end open a little bit more, you're going to have a little bit more of a tube shape, and you're going to be able to build out your square nail nice and straight. But if you're going to be doing a coffin shape like what we're going to do, we're actually going to pinch that form together at the end, and this is going to give our nail a little bit more taper towards the end. Okay, so this one, you guys, I think I had a little bit of dust still around my edges here, and I think that's probably part why my form is not sticking. So let me grab another one here. We're going to do that same thing again. Take that little tab out of the center, pinch our 2 little silver tabs together as evenly as we can. And because we want a little bit more of a taper to our nail, we're going to pinch that end of our form together tight. I'm going to open up that top perforation. Now, when you're putting a form on, I'm going to show you guys this from the side view. I always like to show you from the side view so you can really see what's happening. I'm not just shoving that form like straight underneath that nail. What can happen is if you just shove that form right up under there, that can actually poke into your skin, and that skin is called your hyponychium. And if you poke down into that, that could actually be sore and tender. So you want to make sure that you're not just shoving that form straight in. What you're going to do, you're going to start at a slight downward angle with your form, bring that up underneath that free edge, catch that free edge, and then you're going to lift up on the end and bring that form until it comes nice and straight out from that nail. Okay, that way you're going to have a nice straight extension. You're not going to have a bird beak or anything like that, and your form is going to be flush up underneath that natural nail without any gaps in between there. And then when we look at it straight on, I'm going to make sure that it is nice and straight. I'm going to pinch that together right underneath there. So now we're going to have more of a tapered extension, okay? And when we're doing our coffin-shaped nails, that's exactly what we want. We want a little bit more of that taper. We want a little bit more of that point to bring our product to. I'm going to grab our table towels, and you guys, I like to cut up my table towels into smaller pieces like this. It's just a little bit easier for me to have a place to wipe my brush on. And we're going to grab our, what do we got today? Our Cover Pink acrylic powder. And I've got my brush, and today we're using Greg's Signature Series brush. This is a size 12. And I am going to be using our traditional monomer. Now I do have a little bit in there from my last use. I always want to make sure that I soak up any old monomer so that I'm not trying to add clean monomer to my used monomer. I don't want to try to use that contaminated monomer. So always make sure that you're starting with fresh, clean liquid, so you're always going to have a really good application. So again, we're using our traditional monomer today. We do have an extreme low odor system. So if you are somebody who needs something with less odor, something a little bit more pleasant, you can definitely grab that. But do make sure that if you are using the extreme low odor liquid, that you do use the extreme low odor powder. So make sure that you're not trying to mix and match, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and talk about how do we pick up our pearl. So you guys, I'm going to give you just a really quick preview on how to pick up the pearl, and then we'll actually get into sculpting. So let me come in a little closer here. So when you pick up your pearl, what I like to do, I give that brush a little bit of a dab down into my liquid, and what that's going to do is that's going to release any air bubbles or air pockets that may be in between those bristles. And we want to make sure that we're doing that every so often, so this way we don't end up with those air bubbles in our acrylic nail. Okay, so I'm going to just press those air bubbles out. I'm going to tap the back side of my brush. Now, a lot of times what I see people do is they'll wipe out the back side, they'll wipe out the front side, they'll wipe the sides, wipe all the way around, and then they try to go and pick up their powder or pick up a pearl, and it ends up as just kind of a chunky, I'm going to call it a chunky monkey. It's a chunky, dry, crunchy little bead on your brush. And you guys, that is not going to work well for your enhancement. So what we're going to do instead, we want to be able to control the amount of liquid that's in our brush. By controlling the amount of liquid in our brush, that's going to affect how much powder we pick up. So we're going to take our brush. I'm not going to wipe the backside or wipe the brush itself. I'm going to go in. I'm going to just tap the back. So what that's going to do, and you guys, you can kind of see, let me come in nice and close here. So you can see that when you tap that brush, it's going to release a little bit of liquid from the point. So every time you tap the brush, it's going to drain out liquid. So the more liquid you drain from your brush, the smaller pearls you're going to be able to pick up. Now, depending on what size of a nail you're creating, you may want a larger pearl, you may want a smaller pearl. So to take a large pearl, what we're going to do, again, I'm going to dab my brush in there, release the air bubbles, tap the back side of my brush one time. Now I'm going to turn my brush over. So I tapped the liquid out of the back side. Now I'm going to use the front side of my brush to pick up that pearl. So I'm going to turn that over. The reason that I do that is because when we tap out the back side, we're releasing liquid out of the back and pushing it to the front. So we want to make sure to be using the front of the brush where that's fully loaded, okay? That's going to get the proper consistency. Now when we pick up our pearl, we're not just going to jab that brush right down into the powder. We're not going to swirl it around. We're not going to scratch through that powder. That's all of those different techniques are going to get chunky monkey again on your brush, and your brush is probably going to get dirty and clogged, and then you're going to have to clean it, which we don't want to have to worry about doing. But if you need to, you need to. But let's try to avoid that. So what we're going to do instead, again, we're going to tap the back side of the brush. We're going to turn that brush over, use the front side. I'm going to tap my powder down so I've got a nice clean space to pick up. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go in, I'm going to press and pull in one motion. So press and pull, and then we're going to bounce. So again, press and pull, bounce, bounce, bounce. By doing that press and pull, it's going to keep your product on one side. It's not going to clog up the back side of your brush, okay? So again, if you were to just go straight down in there, you're going to get product on the back side of your brush, and that's going to end up clogging your brush, okay? So again, we're going to do our tap the back side, turn our brush over, we're going to press and pull, bounce, 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 and you're going to notice that you picked up a nice pearl, and it's actually going to start to look like a pearl, okay? So let's go ahead and apply our free edge pearl. Now, when we do our free edge, when we're working on our forms, we want to be able to control our product. We want to make sure that it's not going to run and flow down that form and get out of control. So what we're going to do, we're going to pick up that pearl. Let's get that in there so you guys can see. So again, we're going to press and pull, bounce, bounce. I'm going to make sure that all of my powder has absorbed on that pearl. I'm going to take that pearl and I'm going to drain out the extra liquid. What this is going to do, this is going to actually bring this pearl to more of a clay-like form. So now you're going to see it's not quite so shiny and pearly looking. It's actually more of a matte finish. And that's what we want, because, let me show you guys this really quick, and then I promise I'll apply it to the form. But if you were to pick up that pearl, press and pull, bounce, 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 and if you set that right onto the form right away, your pearl is going to start to run out of control. You're going to have to come in, you're going to have to move that pearl, you're going to have to shape that. It's going to keep running out of control until it has more time to set up. So what we want to do, we don't want to have to be chasing our product, and you guys, that can actually clog up your brush as you're working and trying to push that product around. You're going to get some of that residue in your brush. So first of all, clean out your brush. But what we're going to do is bring that pearl to more of a clay-like form. So we're going to tap this back side of our brush. We're going to press and pull, bounce, bounce, bounce. I'm going to make sure that my powder has absorbed. I'm going to drain my pearl. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then when I set that onto my form, you're going to notice that it's just going to soften a little bit and relax a little bit. It's not going to be running out of control like our first pearl, but with this one, now I've got more control. I can press that product into place. I can mold that to exactly where I want it. So that's why when we're working on the forms, we want more of that clay-like form, okay? Or clay-like consistency. Mama Bear says, just got yourself a new subscriber. Thank you so much. You guys, any of those of you that have subscribed or are going to subscribe, we appreciate you guys so much. But really, it just allows us to give you guys more education. So the more of you that subscribe, the more education we can give. So thank you guys so much for that. All right, so let's go ahead and actually apply this onto our form. So again, tap out the back side. I'm going to press and pull, bounce, bounce, bounce. I'm going to allow that powder to absorb. I'm going to drain the liquid. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to set that right down onto my form. I'm going to press that down, wipe out my brush to get any residue out. I'm going to start to press that product so it's even from side to side. I'm going to use the edge of my brush to tuck in, and then I'm going to walk that product up into the corner. Tuck in with the edge of the brush. Now I'm going to press that all the way across, and I'm kind of pressing and pulling downward just a little bit down to the end of my form. Same thing on the other side, tuck in on the side, And then we're going to walk that product up into the corner, tuck in on the side. Now I'm going to come all the way back across. Guys, I'm going to clean out my brush here real quick. I had a little bit of residue that was sticking there. Now I'm going to start to really taper in those sides. So when you're